Today we are going to build an enclosure for containers. You may need it for garbage pails or other type of containers. For me, I built my container for my water barrels for my rain catchment system. Construction method will be the same or very similar. So we're going to go through and we're going to build another one on the other side of the house. It's going to be just like this. All right, let's go ahead and jump to it. All right, an early step is these concrete blocks. Very important to have these concrete blocks at the level height and proper spacing. Being level is so important because if you're out of level at the base, everything else is going to be worse going up. So we want to make sure we take the time to do this right. How am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to start by building the 2x6 frame at the bottom first, and we're going to use that frame for spacing of the blocks. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to start by building that 2x6 frame, that 2x6 base that sits into the blocks. We're going to build that nice and square and level, and we will use that to measure the blocks. So one thing I'd like to point out is I use the end caps. I use the end pieces as a cap on the long board. One reason for that is that I don't have to cut the long piece. The long piece is going to be your 8-foot pieces, so that's a couple of cuts that I don't have to make. And the other thing is for good spacing of the 4 barrels. I really like that extra distance in there. So you can see they're kind of tight in there. They're kind of tight. So I need that extra 3 inches that I'm going to get by using those boards as an end cap. So we're going to measure that. The end boards, we're going to measure that at 24 inches each. And that means interior boards that are going to line up, the interior boards are going to line up on these other blocks. Those are going to be 21 inches. So we're going to go ahead and cut those right now. So this next part, very important, because everything is built from this. If this is not square, everything on top of this is going to be worse. It's just problems will just magnify. If I'm off by ½ an inch, by the time I get to the top, it's going to be more than that. All right, so I've got my pieces here, and I don't have any work table. So what I've done is I've laid out a couple other nice flat 2x6s, and I'm going to first eyeball this, make sure that this is in place. Now notice I went and pre-drilled the screws, and I'm using number 10 3-inch screws, and drop my little square over here. Drop my square. We're going to use a square to make sure that everything is squared. So first thing I'm doing is eyeballing it to get it close, and we will square this, and it is not square. So let me move this out a little bit. Very important to be square, and I will hold this in place, and I will start with one screw. All right, I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to double check this at the bottom. What do they say? Measure twice, cut once. And I want to make sure that this is not twisted. This looks good. I'm going to hold this in. I got to pull this in just a little bit here. Pull this in just a little bit. All right. Perfect. Then we'll get this middle one, and then I'll go ahead and do the rest of everything. So easy to pre-drill everything. Let's double check. Oh yeah, that looks good. Okay. Let me get the other side over here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, now I got to do the other board over here, and we'll have the foundation of our base. It is a little challenging doing this by yourself. All right, I'm holding that in place, and I'm going to come over here and do this side. Let's double check. Oh yeah. Perfect. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this, and then we'll see how it works. All right, so we got this up. Everything is square, looks great. So what I have to do is put in these interior pieces here for support. These are going to go in here. We'll trim them down to make them fit perfectly, but they will go into here. So I need to measure, first of all, and we are going to make sure that they are precisely balanced. So I have 95 and 5/8. So we're going to divide that by 3. 95 and 5/8. Okay, so let's see. It's 95 and 5/8. Divide by 3. 31 and 7/8. Okay, so 31 and 7/8. We'll measure from here. And let's see. 31. 31 and 7/8. And let me measure over here, 31 and 7/8. And I'm going to do that on both sides. All right, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some screws. I'm going to put a couple of screws in there first, and then we'll go ahead and mount the pieces. Snug fit. All right, I'm gonna have to trim this just a hair. All right, so making this flush, lining it up on the mark, making it flush, perfectly flush. That's important so my deck boards will fit well. All right, so this is the foundation that we're going to build everything from. I'm going to use this to measure those deck blocks over there, and everything from the board panels, the side, everything is going to be built off of this. Very important. I'm very happy with how this came out. Now, let's see if this old man can get it to where it needs to be. Let me set my tool down, and I'm going to carry this over to the other side. Ooh, I'm not young anymore. Okay, let's go over here. All right, so I'm gonna set this down here for right now. Obviously my deck blocks are not even close to being level, but they're all gonna line up with this. So I'm gonna start working on the deck blocks. That's next, but I'm gonna come back to them in just a little bit. So that's the next step that we're gonna do. All right, stay with me. All right, I've got the frame here, and this is what I'm gonna use to do most of our measurements. But initially, I have to get these bricks close. So I start with this dock block, and that is the lowest one. It looks like the lowest to me, so that is the lowest. And I just leveled that off, and that is going to be my cornerstone. All measurements from the other dock blocks are going to come from there. And I'm going to start off first with this outer row. As you can see, they're not all lined up. I've got to move one back. Some of them are a little higher. But I'm going to start off by using a single 2x6 to get everything close. It's a little bit warped, I can see that from here, but I'm going to get things close, and then I will be able to put the frame on top of that. And from there, I'll be able to bring in the other 4, and we'll have a really good foundation and a really good start once we get this in alignment. So let me go ahead and do this and get working on some of these so I can get them kind of close. The front row is now in alignment. You can see that they are in line with the supporting brackets. They're in line with that long 2x6 beam. However, we can also see that they are not level because the lumber is sitting on some bricks and not others. All right, next step, I'm gonna go get a level. I'm gonna make some height adjustments. All right, I'm making progress. Let's see if I can see that. It's in there. I don't know if we can see that, but we are making progress. And this is the most tedious part of the whole job, is to have a good foundation. Now, you can pour a concrete foundation if you like. That might be a little faster, depending on what you're doing, but the foundation is everything. So we've got to have these deck blocks in place. They have to be level, properly spaced, and everything else will come out fine. Otherwise, we're gonna have a crooked mess. All right, this is gonna take a while. I'll keep you up to date. All right, we are done. This is the most critical step here. This has got to be level, and it took a while. But we got it. Everything else comes off of this. So next 3 steps here, I'm going to give them to you all at once. In between these sections of boards, I'm going to add another supporting bracket, another cross bracket. So I'll add 3 more. And I know there's not going to be bricks on them, but because I am adding water barrels on top, and there'll be 4 of them. So that'll be 200 gallons. And it's about 1,600 gallons. I want to make sure that these barrels are supported. I'm going to have a deck boards on top, but I want to make sure that they last a good long time. So I'm going to put extra brackets in there. That's one of the steps. Next step, I'm going to backfill these holes that I dug for the blocks. Key thing is to make sure that the ground pushes the water away from the base. I don't want the water washing these blocks, washing the foundation away from these blocks anytime soon. I don't know if it would do that, but I'm going to make sure that the rainwater is going to run away from those blocks. That's step 2. And step 3, I'm going to stain everything before I continue on. It'll be easier for me to stain as I go. So 3 steps, they're short ones. I'm going to knock them out, and then I'm going to come back to you. All right, we got this in place, ready to go. I got to tell you, my eyeball looks at this and says, this is not level. I put that level on every which way. It is perfectly level. So I'm satisfied with the tool. I'm not going to trust my eyeballs. I'll trust the tool. The tool says it is good to go. And it must be that the lay of the land is uneven. So anyway, the next step here, we're gonna start putting the sides up. Now, eventually I'm gonna put floorboards, decking boards across here, but that's gonna be near last because I am gonna put floorboards here. And let's see, as you can see, I need to put a couple here, one here and one here. I'm gonna do that on both sides. And I'm gonna put 4 across the front. So 1 at each end and then 1 in the middle over here because I need to have a panel that I'm gonna attach to. So there's gonna be a bunch on the front, but as far as being bolted in, I'm gonna take some carriage bolts and I'm gonna bolt these 2x4s to the sides and to the front. So that's the next step. I gotta cut me some 2x4s and drill the holes for the carriage bolts. And then we're gonna go ahead and stain those and secure those. From there, I can attach the side panels. And from there on the front, I can build that front removable panel so I can access the front barrels. All right, let's get to it. Next step is to put the braces for the side panel. So here's what we have. As I showed you before, we were going to cut them. I've got these all cut. And what I'm going to do now is drill the bolts. I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill all the bolt holes over here. I'm going to go 1.25 inches from the bottom. And it's a 5.5 inch. There's 1x6s, so 5.5. So that'll be a 4.5, 4. And so we're going to mark this. And I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes for the carriage bolts. I'm going to do this for every one, and pretty simple. Just get this in the middle. And that's it. I'll do this for the others, and then we'll be able to mount these. All right, so we're finally at the stage where we're putting the side braces up. We're going to attach the side panels to this. So what we want to do is attach these. I've already got my holes pre-drilled, so this is going to make it easy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this bottom lined up with the bottom here. And take a look over here. I've got the block over here, so I'm coming right up against the block because I want this as wide as possible. And right up against that block is where I want to be. All right, now taking my wood clamp. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm not worried right now about level. Let me get this wood clamp in here. And it slipped quite a bit. All right, level there. And let me clamp this in. All right, good and tight. Now I need to make this level. And a little bit of adjustment. All right, so that is level. So what I'm going to do is I've got one hole. I'm going to drill the top hole first, and then I'm going to put the carriage bolt in, and that will help stabilize this. All right, you see how that moved? I'm going to go ahead and remeasure. I'm going to remeasure because precision matters. Still good. Let's check the bottom. Still good. Okay. Let me clamp this as tight as I can. Clamp this as tight as I can. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to put my carriage bolt in with a washer to help hold it. Using a 1/4 inch by 4 inch, and another washer and a nut on the back side. And get that going. And I can release this now because that carriage bolt is holding it. Then I'm going to tighten this up. Snug, not tight, snug. so that when I get this lined up, level again, I will be okay. Okay, good measure. Okay, now we'll go ahead and redo the second bolt. Here's my nice ball peen hammer, and then I can put these on and tighten them. All right, make it good and snug, but I don't have to go too tight because it'll just keep pulling into the wood. So just good and snug. So this is solid. And there it is. So now we're gonna go ahead and put these in on the rest of this base. And from there, we're gonna do the wood panels. But we got a few more to do. 2 more on the other side, 4 up front, and yeah, we're gonna keep going pretty good. All right, let's go back to work. All right, we're making progress. I got the side supports up, and you can see that they have carriage bolts, 2 carriage bolts in for each one. So we are ready to go. We are next going to put on side panels. I could either go with the side panels or the floor. It's really easier to put the floor in before I put those front panels on, although I could work from behind. It's just easier. So I'm going to put in the side panels, and then we're going to put on the floor, and then we're going to put on the front panels. We are getting close. All right, folks, we are putting the side panels on first, and got them lined up, as you can see, lined up on the edge over here. And what is that board? Well, this is how I do my spacing between the boards. All right, I slip that board in between, and I'm going to do this between every board, and this is how I'm going to keep everything aligned, and aligned all the way across the front too. We're going to be using these boards. I got another one down there for the longer piece, but that's how we line things up. I was slipping that board in there. Easy, cheap way of doing that. All right, I'm going to give you guys a mid-project update here. So as you can see, we've got the structures here, we got the base ready, and we've got 4 of the panels, 5 on that other side. I have to add 1 more, and look at that beautiful spacing. So I'm going to add the 5th board here just to even that up. And then if you come and take a look over here, at this point, just for easy access, then I'm gonna put the floorboards down here. I waited on the floorboards, so if you can come over here and see, I wanted to make sure I had access to these bolts for these posts. All right, so they're gonna be buried underneath those floorboards. That's why we held off on the floorboards. Floorboards will be next after we get that last piece, and then we're gonna start working on the front, and that's when it starts to get exciting. All right, let's get to it. All right, I just wanted to show you this one. So we got this board in here, got this clamp. I can do this by myself. Important here, got to make sure it's tight because it might droop down a little bit. Make sure the edge is good, edge is lined up. I'm not worried about this edge. You'll find out why in a little bit, because we're gonna hide that edge. There we are. Perfectly measured. We'll sand all that up, clean that up. Look at that, beauteous, beauteous. All right, so this is how I do the floor. I don't know, a professional might have this done a little bit differently, but this works for me. I've already measured. I'm gonna get 4 boards in here. There's gonna be a little bit of gap. So I'm gonna do the front, I'm gonna do the back. I've got these in here, I'm gonna screw these in. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the other two boards and just make sure that the gaps are even. That'll be 3 gaps. Make sure those gaps are even and everything will be perfectly aligned. So we're going to put this together. A little piece here, a little piece there. It's starting to look good. All right, let me do this. So what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that I tie into both the cross beam and the sideways beam, the main beam here. So I want to tie into each of those. That'll give the boards that strength, and it'll help tie everything together. All right, so that's why I'm picking these holes where they are, and I'm going to do that throughout the whole structure here. Now, a couple of these spots I have split the wood. If you're concerned about splitting the wood, the thing to do is to pre-drill the holes a little bit smaller than the screw head, and you will prevent that. All right, so take a look at this. You can see that I set this up. All the boards are pushed to one side. There's one big gap. What I want to do is spread these out evenly. So the way I do that, I measure this gap. And this gap is right at 1 inch. So I need 3 gaps. 1, 2, 3. So we're gonna divide 1 inch by 3. Let's see. Is it exactly at 1 inch? It's a little bit less. So divide by 3, we're gonna call that 15, we're gonna call that 5/16. All right, I'm gonna screw 1 screw on each end of each board to make sure they don't shift, because that's a hassle to get those in alignment again. All right, we're gonna put on these front pieces. I wanna share with you what I'm doing. And we are making sure that we are level, lined up. We want everything to look like it's lined up when we are done. So we are lining up the front panel with the side panel, and making sure, of course, it is level. And I have got the clamps in place. So we are holding this, and I'm gonna go ahead and screw this in. That first piece is so important. As far as if you have, as far as alignment, I don't worry so much about this side over here. If I've got a rough side, this is the rough side. I can, this is the side that can be rough. We're going to cover this corner at the end. So we're going to we can sand all this down. I got a little bit of rough spot here. We can sand all this down. We're going to make sure all this is aligned here and aligned horizontally, vertically and horizontally. All right, so I've got this piece in here. This is going to be the piece that we measure all the others on this side from. All right, so I want to show you what I'm doing here. Just like on the side panel, we're using this 1x2, this furring strip, as a spacer, but over here, I'm making sure that that furring strip lines up with those side panels. So we're going to do that for each one to make sure that we keep our alignment. It will look very good that way. All right, I'm getting ready to install the front panel. I'm using what's called a hook and eye hinge, and you can actually use this as a hinge if you like. Basically, the way this works is I've got this pin. This will go into the panel and will drop in like that. And I will have 4 of them, and you can see that's part way in, and that's where is that? That's what that looks like when that is in. So I'm going to put 4 of these eyes on here, 4 of these hooks, and each hole is pre-drilled, and I will put the pins into the panel. Now, if you are going to have a an opening that is going to be accessed frequently, I would not recommend this because it's going to be a pain in that. But for me, I like the panel that just lifts off and set off to the side. But I'm going to access this maybe once or twice a year. But if you're going to use this for maybe like garbage pails or something like that, you're going to probably want a traditional hinge on this so that you can access this easier. All right, let me go ahead and put it together. Okay, I'm beginning to make the door panel here, and these hinges are in place on both sides. I've got the post, the main post for the door panel. So what I'm going to do now is connect the tops and the bottoms with 2x2s, and then I'm going to add a couple of vertical members as well. So I like to keep these in place and cut to fit. All right, I'm ready to put this top piece in, and I'm using a corner bracket to make sure that this top piece gets held in place. And let me step over here. And we can see it's going to go like, you can see it's going to go like this. Now we'll screw that in on both sides, and then we're going to have our top piece. All right. Basic frame is in place, and I just want to show you I toe-nailed this extra screw in here. Just give a little bit of extra strength to make sure I maintain that shape. All right, so I've tested it. I've lifted this up. It fits in the slots, and the pins fit in the holes. Everything is good. So now I'm going to put in a couple of reinforcing pieces down the middle, and after that, we're going to go ahead and put in the front panels, and that will really tie everything in together as far as strength. Okay, so got these center posts almost done, and I want to show you how I did that. I countersunk the holes at the base here using a 3/8 wood bit, and so I did that partially through because I don't need to have the screws sticking out. And then what I'm going to do is screw these into the base. And get those into the post vertical. I've already got the top. That's going to make for a very stable post. All right, let's get it on. And we are back to our method of aligning. We've got this furring strip in between the boards. We're going to make sure that these new boards are aligned. We will just set this on, and the boards will all be aligned nice all the way across, and we're going to do that at each level. All right, I'm at the final step, and that is to put those corner pieces on. I like to close up the corners, so we're going to see this. I've got a corner bracket over there, and I am going to put this on. I've used a 2x2 piece of plastic, painted it black, drilled the holes, so I'm going to have a hole in each board, countersunk the holes, and once I put this last piece on, we're done. All right, there it is. That is my enclosure for different containers. I'm going to use it for rain catchment. You can use this for garbage pails and whatnot, and that's it. It is all done. It looks nicer than the containers just sitting out on their own. Fairly easy project. Does take some time and some attention to detail. So all right, that's it. Stay safe, stay prepared.